Good evening. The Roosevelt County Commission will now reconvene. We're here to address item 16A on the agenda. Consideration of ordinance 2023-101 requiring abortion providers in Roosevelt County to comply with federal law. The commission will allow up to 2 hours for public comment regarding this ordinance. All public comments will follow the 2022-02 Public Participation Resolution and is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. We'll alternate between for and against the ordinance. We expect each speaker to be courteous and to observe the time limit. Mrs. Hamilton will be our timer. So, do you have anyone you'd like to call?
I have the list. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so at the request of the commission, we will alternate between for and against, and I will work down the list as we can. So the first one to sign up is Arky Kinney, speaking in favor. And the next one up behind him would be Stephanie, and I'm just going to apologize now if I mispronounce anybody's name, but Stephanie, a very pretty Stressamon Wilkinson or some kind of name. So you'll be next. Thank you.
Green light? All right, I got it on for everybody else. I'm the first to talk, and I appreciate it. I don't think the issue is totally clear to everyone that is here. The issue is whether or not we want abortion clinics in our county. I do not. My position is not to say who's for abortions and who's against abortions, and that's not why we're here. We're not here to do that tonight. We're here to state whether or not we want to let people kill kids in our county. And I would say this to those that are for abortion. If you really and truly want to kill your kid, why don't you get a knife and cut his throat? Or just drag him off like you would a dog. But we don't want to encourage our kids that are growing up here, our college kids, our high school kids, to see abortion clinics and think it's okay. It's okay to get pregnant. Why don't we teach them abstinence and morality instead of encouraging them by saying, all I got to do if I get pregnant is go down here, kill my baby? Too bad some of the parents of those with that attitude didn't have the abortion done to them. Maybe these people would have a different attitude. But I do not want to state that that I think that it's good. I think there are issues. There are times when it's necessary, but not just because we want to have abortion clinics here. I do not want to have abortion clinics here. If you want to kill your babies, go to Santa Fe or Albuquerque, where they like it and they like your money. And the main reason I don't want it here is because Texas is going to come here and they're going to abort their children here as well. So I'll leave it at that. But I really and truly hope that the commission passes the no ordinance, no abortion laws, no abortion clinics in our county. Thank you.
Next will be Stephanie. And following them will be Alan Carter.
Good evening, all. My name is Stephanie Strussman Wilkinson, and I am a resident of Roosevelt County. I am speaking to you tonight in opposition to Ordinance 2023-01. It is widely assumed that this ordinance, if passed, will be overturned by the state. I will allow others to speak further on that and instead focus on some of the consequences of passing it. These consequences fall into two categories: effects on the residents of Roosevelt County and outside perception of Roosevelt County. If passed, Ordinance 2023-01 risks extreme damage to the health of women in Roosevelt County. The wording of the ordinance allows exceptions for ectopic pregnancy, but not for the many other dangerous health conditions that can arise during a pregnancy. These unexpected dangerous conditions include, but are not limited to, partial and complete molar pregnancies, preeclampsia, Mira syndrome, sepsis, fibroids, incomplete miscarriage, hemorrhage, and cancer. If Ordinance 2023-01 is allowed to pass and take effect, healthcare professionals may be afraid to refer women experiencing these issues for termination. This risks lifelong damage or even death. The ordinance may also prevent women of childbearing age from accessing medications that happen to have the possibility to cause miscarriage or birth defects. This includes, but is not limited to, medications to manage autoimmune diseases, mental health diseases, including postpartum depression and cancer. As a woman who suffers from 3 chronic illnesses, including an autoimmune disease, this is particularly concerning to me. The legal fees alone on defending this ordinance are exorbitant, and that money would be better spent if it was invested in our beautiful community. I am here tonight not just as a woman of Roosevelt County, but also as a member of the New Mexico film industry. Roosevelt County benefits from the incentives given to the film industry by the state of New Mexico, especially the rural incentive. When Women's Medical Center was closing last year, members of New Mexico Women in Film were willing to come from other cities at their own expense to shoot a project to help save it. This project did not happen because we were unable to find the support for it within our own community. The film industry as a whole has pulled out of areas with severe restrictions on abortion access, and I fear that passing Ordinance 2023-01 would keep productions out of Roosevelt County. New Mexico Women in Film members have told me that they will refuse to shoot in Roosevelt County out of solidarity for the women affected if the ordinance is passed. Commissioners, I ask that you act out of love and concern for all members of Roosevelt County tonight and refuse to pass Ordinance 2023-01. Thank you, and I hope you have an excellent night.
Mr. Chair, I would like to reiterate what you mentioned earlier about respect for each speaker tonight. The booing thing is a very negative thing, so I wish you guys can refrain or restrain from that. Thank you.
I don't know if y'all could.
What'd you say?
I've got my speaker on. He was asking us not to be booing or clapping while we're speaking or after we get there. Let's just have a good common.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Alan Carter, lifelong resident here in Roosevelt County, 59 years, born and raised. I wish that the other side, she made the statement about a beautiful community. I wish she could really see how beautiful this community is. We don't need ugliness. We don't need evil. You know, 2 weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks ago, we celebrated the birth of Christ. Can you imagine? Can you just imagine in your mind if our Lord and Savior was aborted? Like I said, it's unimaginable. These are talking points that the left they just want to keep hammering on women's rights. Where's the right of the child? Where's the right of the dad? Most of all, where's God's right? This is a religious-backed community. God is in everything we do in this community. We are 70% conservative in Roosevelt County. And I apologize I didn't bring my signs and an army with me. We had a preacher that I was talking to that I wanted him to really get involved in this abortion issue. And right before the election, he got in front of the attendants at the church and he said, I'm not going to preach. I'm going to speak. This is a speech. You have to change man's heart. You have to change man's heart before you can have these type of issues. We wouldn't have these types of issues if we could change men and women's hearts. I do not want an abortion clinic here, and I'll close on one more note. MLG has come out and specifically said she wants to take care of New Mexico. What does this have to do with taking care of New Mexico when this county is pro-life? She wants Texas to come over here to revenue the state of New Mexico. That's horrible. That's horrible. Trading your life for money. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next is Owen Pierce, and they will be followed by Pastor Peepcorn.
Owen Pierce, resident of Roosevelt County for 30 years. On this proposed abortion ordinance, all I have to say is this: why are you making laws that remove a woman's right to choose? Last time I checked, this is the United States of America. Everyone here has a right to be free. No one or group can take those rights away, so stop trying to put your beliefs on wives, sisters, daughters, granddaughters, and every woman in Roosevelt County. It is a woman's right, it is a woman's choice, not a bunch of commissioners. Remember the Constitution. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thanks for letting me speak. I won't speak long. What is not up for discussion tonight is whether what is in a woman's womb is a human baby or not. You cannot argue physiologically, anatomically, philosophically, logically that it is anything but a baby in the mother's womb. Therefore, it is really not a political issue, but a moral issue. And if it's a moral issue, then we back up and say, what is the standards by which we judge moralities? And it's not within ourselves. It's something much bigger than ourselves. Many of us are believers in God and follow the scriptures, but there are other standards by which you have to say it is simply immoral, evil to take a baby's life, especially if they have not done anything wrong. It's an innocent person. So I encourage you to do the right and the moral thing, to stand up in the face of what is evil. And you know the old adage, bad things happen when good people do nothing. And so I encourage you to vote yes for this so that we do not encourage the taking of innocent babies' lives in our county.
Next will be Elaine Gard, followed by Michael Seibel. Sorry.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Elaine Gard. I'm a 24-year resident of Roosevelt County, and I come to you to ask you to vote no on Ordinance 2023-1. I come to you as a person who will feel the negative repercussions of this ordinance and as a mother of 2 individuals who will also be negatively impacted by this ordinance. This ordinance was written in a way that will effectively create vigilante residents in Roosevelt County who will seek to harm pregnant persons, harm in the form of capacity to bring suit based on suspicion and conjecture about the person's actions and potential receipt of banned items, thereby placing on already vulnerable individuals the burden of proving their innocence as well as threat of fiscal harm. This ordinance endangers access to future reproductive health care in our county, along with the added burden on our already stretched health and human services for unwanted and harmful pregnancies. The right to choose any form of reproductive health care is essential to ensuring a person can decide for themselves who, when, and with whom to start or grow a family. I will not stop fighting to protect and expand what I consider to be an fundamental human right. I grew up in a Christian home. My parents supported Christian missionary work for decades. One of the things they instilled in me was free will. Free will, free will. It was ingrained in me that you have the ability to make choices. You have the ability to decide what you want to do. You are responsible for your decisions because God has given you that responsibility, that option to make decisions. We must ensure a person can determine when and whether to have children according to their own conscience and religious beliefs, and without governmental interference or coercion. I think that we should all agree that abortion should be rare. How do we do that? We do that by providing comprehensive sexual education in schools, in our religious congregations, and by ensuring that there is accurate information about contraception, the limits of contraception, along with making contraception readily available. I believe that we must ensure that individuals are treated with dignity and respect, and that all people are able to follow the dictates of their own consciousness. And that includes their reproductive decisions. Ultimately, it's the government's responsibility to ensure individuals have that ability to make their own decisions and to determine their own circumstances. Depending on circumstances, it may be selfish to bring a child into this world. So many people advocate for bringing all children into the world. These people are 100% supportive when the child is waiting to be born. However, as soon as the child is born, people abort the child in so many other ways. They abort the child through the lack of health care, things like that. Please say no.
County Commissioners, my name is Mike Seibel. I'm a father, a Knight of Columbus, an attorney, and the nation's leading attorney in abortion malpractice. You're going to hear a lot of stories tonight about what this might do to the women. I'm going to tell you what abortion is doing to our New Mexico women. Keisha Atkins died of a late-term abortion, gasping for breath, because the abortionist could not recognize that she had sepsis. Over 50 women at Southwest Women's Options have been injured and transported to hospitals in just the past couple of years with things like sepsis, uterine ruptures, and heavy bleeding. Many are on the brink of death. In addition, 8% of all those who take the abortion pill are currently ending up in the emergency rooms. My office is taking phone calls on ruptured ectopic pregnancies because the abortionists cannot recognize that they have ectopic pregnancies because they're not doing ultrasounds. We're going to see RH testing go away with the abortion pill. This means more women are going to be hurt and left infertile because we're just wildly prescribing of an abortion pill. I represent women. I represent women who have been hurt by this industry in New Mexico. Over 500 of them have been experimented on by the abortion industry without their knowledge. Where is the left when we hear that these women are being taken advantage of? Over 2,000 had their body parts sold by the University of New Mexico. Where was the left asking for women to be represented? Women need to be protected in this society, and the left is not protecting women. An ordinance like this will allow me to protect women, a private right of action. to level the playing field against the poor woman who is hurt by the abortionist or by the abortion pill because of the negligence and haphazardness of an abortion industry. This ordinance needs to be passed. Otherwise, your emergencies rooms are going to be filled with Texas women, like Albuquerque's are starting to become. Because, as I said, 8% of these women end up in your emergency rooms. You have a duty to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the members of your county. And Santa Fe and the abortion industry is not regulating this industry. It's time that you do it at the local level and pass an ordinance that allows lawyers like me to go after those people who are hurting and damaging our women. Thank you.
Next will be Todd Fuqua, followed by J.C. Carpenter.
My name is Todd Fuqua. I was born, raised, and educated here in Portales. I am not here this evening to challenge the views any of you hold on abortion. I accept that you hold those views and understand they are sincerely held. They may differ from mine, I'm sure they do. I recognize your right, though, to believe what you choose. The words I'm about to share here actually come from my brother, Scott Fuqua. Pastor Dixon, you might ask Jonathan Mitchell if he remembers that name. He should, since they are both 2001 graduates of the University of Chicago Law School. And Scott is a former assistant attorney general for the state of New Mexico and currently a practicing lawyer in Santa Fe. He knows New Mexico law. This is from my brother. I'm writing about what I believe to be the folly of Roosevelt County taking action that, under the New Mexico Constitution, it lacks the authority to take. Article 4, Section 1 of that Constitution vests legislative power in the House and Senate of the New Mexico legislature. That grant of authority is almost entirely exclusive. No other governmental entity may exercise it. The New Mexico Constitution also expressly addresses the powers of counties and municipalities. That power is far more limited. Article 6, Section 10 prohibits counties and municipalities from exercising general legislative authority over civil relationships. This ordinance proposes to do exactly that. It would create private cause of action against people or corporations who receive in New Mexico instruments or other items to be used in the provision of abortion services. Roosevelt County simply lacks the authority to do that. This is an issue that can only be resolved at the state level through the legislative channels established and protected by the New Mexico Constitution. It is particularly troubling to me that Roosevelt County contemplates such an action on the basis of an interpretation of a 150-year-old federal law that the United States Department of Justice has very recently repudiated. The Comstock Act, or at least what survives of it after constitutional challenges and amendments, does not criminalize the use of the Postal Service to mail instruments or other items that can be used to perform legal medical procedures. And abortion remains legal in the state, and that means that it remains legal in Roosevelt County. Our policy differences can only be resolved by the New Mexico legislature, the only body vested by the New Mexico Constitution with the power to do what this county commission is considering. Whatever fate has in store for the provision of abortion services in New Mexico, it will not be revealed tonight. It will instead be decided through the legislative process, both federally and statewide. And as important an issue as abortion is, it isn't bigger than the democratic system we have all chosen to govern us, because it is that system through which we decide all issues. I would urge this commission to refrain from attempting to usurp the power of the state and not attempt an end run around our cherished democratic institutions. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm J.C. Carpenter, and I am here as a woman who has been hurt by abortion. At 18 years old, I found myself pregnant. Had abortion not been legal, had I understood that what was growing inside me was actually a human at its earliest stages of development, I would not have had an abortion. I would not have killed my first child. I would not have spent the next 25 years in a prison of my own mind, trying to rationalize and justify what I had done. I wouldn't have spun out of control using drugs and alcohol. I wouldn't have tried to commit suicide multiple times. Women are 6 times more likely to commit suicide after having had an abortion. Teen girls are 10 times more likely to commit suicide after having had an abortion. I can tell you that even though I have been healed, delivered, and set free by Jesus the Christ, I even without the religious aspect, a human is a human, and they've talked about human rights. When do humans become humans? When at the moment of conception, a new and unique human being is created. That is the point that every human should have a right. And that first and most valuable right that a human has is the right to life. Without that right, no other right matters. So with abortion hurting women, with abortion causing, and I've spoke to women all over this country who have confessed abortions to me that they had 40 years ago that are still plaguing them. Women are hurt. Women are infertile because of abortions. Women have had multiple suicide attempts. I've spoke with women all over this country, and the story is the same. I urge you to make the right decision, even without the religious aspect. Every human being has a right to life. Every human being is created equal, and their value shouldn't be determined by their size, by their level of development, by the environment they live in because they live somewhere that you don't want them to, or by their degree of dependence on somebody else. Every single human being is precious. Thank you.
Next will be Barbara Sin, followed by Linda Rippey.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm Barbara Sen. I've lived, worked, and voted in Roosevelt County for 36 years, and I am opposed to Ordinance 2023-01. According to the New Mexico Secretary of State, 23% of the registered voters in this county are independents, 23% are Democrats, and 52% are Republicans. What does that mean for this issue? People may make some assumptions about the number. A 2022 Gallup poll shows that nationwide, 84% of independent voters believe abortion should be legal in some or all cases. 95% of Democratic voters believe that abortion should be legal, and 77% of Republican voters believe abortion should be legal in some or all cases. 2020 data from the nonpartisan independent Public Religion Research Institute shows that 27% of Roosevelt County residents identify as white evangelical Protestants, 28% as mainline Protestants, 17% as Catholics, and 22% as unaffiliated. Again, what do those numbers mean? Let's not make an assumption. 2022 Pew Research data shows that 97% of people who don't have a religious affiliation believe abortion should be legal in some or all cases. 89% of Catholics believe that abortion should be legal in some or all cases. And in addition, 77% of white evangelical Protestants also believe abortion should be legal in some or all cases. In fact, according to Guttmacher Institute research, in 2014, 38% of the legal abortions in the United States were obtained by women with no religious affiliation. 24% of the legal abortions were obtained by women who identified as Catholic, and 13% were obtained by women who identified as white evangelical Protestants. When making your decision, please remember that you represent and work for all the people in your district, and remember that not all people with a certain religious or political affiliation believe and want the same things. There are small groups of people who have been very active and vocal on both sides of this issue, and that's obvious. However, there are many, many more people in this county who are not comfortable stating their opinions in public or outside of the ballot box.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will be short and sweet, and I just want to say this is not a political issue. Is it a moral issue? That is what is so staggering about the statistics she just gave. Does that not tell you anything about the moral compass of the United States? Because the Bible says abortion is wrong. You sacrifice children, God is angry. God created man and woman. He didn't create all these genders that American people are encompassing today. Transgender, my God, I won't even go there. I get upset to teach little children that. So our moral compass, I mean, your statistics, young lady, just scares me to death because it shows us our moral compass. And that's all I have to say. Most of you know, some of you don't. Know of you, but don't really know you. But I would say you count yourself as Christians. We will know once the vote comes out. Thank you.
Next up is Danielle Klein, followed by Carolyn Thompson. I think
Hello. Thank you for allowing me and others whose opinion may not reflect your own to speak this evening. I believe we are all pretty solidly rooted in our opinions surrounding the topics of abortion and this ordinance. I don't intend to change your views in 3 minutes. That said, I would like to share some questions I have as food for thought. If every aspect of fertility, pregnancy, and birth, and all of the complications related to those conditions can be diagnosed and medically billed on the mother's chart, and services rendered must be performed by a qualified health professional, why is the abortion of pregnancy not being protected as a private healthcare decision? If no one, not even people who have died, can be forced to donate their organs, even if using their organs would save someone's life, how is it right to force someone to donate their uterus to save a potential life? If your daughter, sister, wife, etc., found out at 20+ weeks gestation that the fetus she was carrying would not be physically able to survive outside of the womb, and she could not bear 4 more months of fielding questions like, when are you due? And do you want me to buy some 12 to 18-month clothes for the baby? Should she really have to wait for a legal process to occur before speaking with her doctor about what course of action might be best for her mental and physical well-being? If, through religion, you believe that God provides the knowledge necessary for medical science to exist, and if the afterlife for the good and innocent is believed to be free from pain and suffering, why is there a fear of using medicine to send what you may define as a child to that place? And why is that being considered a more noble pursuit than ensuring already born 5-year-olds aren't sexually assaulted by the trusted community members like I was when I was 5? Laws, ordinances, etc., all stem from roots in humanity. If we ignore the humanity and medical privacy of those already standing before us based on one singular system of beliefs, then we are encouraging a dangerous precedent concerning our religious freedoms and the protection of healthcare information. Please help protect the freedoms you have sworn to defend. Please do not pass this ordinance. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Carolyn Thompson. I ask that the commission vote to not have it here. I had a child in my womb for almost 10 months, 50 years ago, and he was stillborn. And I still grieve that. I believe God said to Adam and Eve, be fruitful and multiply, and he intended for us to have children. I believe that abortion now has become a birth control, and I'm against that, saying, yeah, it's okay to have sex. You don't have to have that baby. Thank you.
Next will be Cynthia Rodriguez. Sorry, some people had trouble reading. Please print. I'm so sorry. So Dane, maybe? Dane Wood? Yes, that sounds good. You'll be following Miss Cynthia.
Hi, my name is Cynthia, and I'm an organizer with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I'm asking you to vote no on the ordinance 2023-01. This ordinance is a direct attack on abortion rights. It limits the already very restricted access that women in the county already have. What I've learned is that the only healthcare that you guys have that even involves reproductive rights, including giving birth, is actually in Clovis and apparently Lubbock, because Clovis only has visiting OBGYNs, which means that women that go 20 minutes away when they're giving birth aren't even going to be having the same doctors and access unless they go all the way to Lubbock, Texas. So this ordinance is telling women that they have to carry babies full term while also not giving them any access to that kind of healthcare that they need. There needs to be an expansion of access to not only abortion, but all reproductive healthcare, all healthcare in general in rural areas like here. The other thing too is that we're talking about women facing the dangers that, having to be in like legal battles. But this ordinance gives powers to vigilantes to accuse any woman of having an abortion, that once you make it illegal, which means that all of these women, no matter what happens to them, are going to have to prove their innocence just because somebody has decided to accuse them of an abortion, which is extremely unfair. Women should have the freedom to choose their own destiny, to choose their own fate, to choose to have an abortion or to choose to have a child. And there needs to be access to do both of those things. And that is severely limited here. So this ordinance puts women in danger, and it should be voted no on. We should be expanding healthcare in rural areas and making sure that women have access to all healthcare, including abortion.
Just so for the record, my name is Dave McFadden, and it's a privilege to be able to address the commissioners tonight. And I'm proud to be a citizen of a nation where we have this freedom of debate. So thank you for this opportunity. My wife and I have been residents of Portales, Roosevelt County, for 17 years, and we love our community, and we love living here. And it's because I love our community and our county that I wanted to encourage you to consider approving the ordinance under consideration. If our community were to hear about an infant that was found dead in its crib, and it was determined that that infant's death had come about at the initiation of another human being, our community would demand justice. And furthermore, our community would expect from its elected officials that they would do whatever would be necessary to prevent such a tragedy from occurring again. In my mind, the only difference between the scenario just described and the abortion of an unborn infant is that rather than being in a crib, the unborn infant that is aborted is in the womb. but their demise comes about as a result of the initiative of another human being. So I just want to encourage you, as elected representatives of our community, to think hard and long about what you might do to prevent such a tragedy from occurring in our county. There are a lot of things over which I don't have a lot of say, it seems. I don't have a lot of say about all the marijuana shops coming into our county and community and other things such as that. But tonight I have the opportunity to have some say in this. And so I thank you for the privilege. One other thing I want to say, and then I'll be done. Here just not long ago, there was a football player, professional football player, that had a heart attack on the football field. And it was amazing how many calls for prayer there were nationally and on television. It's interesting that when people that we say are too young to die, you know, they're on the verge of death, how many people, even maybe who don't even consider themselves very godly people, will suddenly be motivated to pray. Well, this decision you're going to be dealing with has to do with the impending demise of younger people. And I just want you to know you're probably the most prayed for group of people in this county tonight.
Thank you very much.
Next will be Megan Painter, followed by Quaylene Parkey.
I'll make my point brief. I just want to say women should have the freedom to access abortion and reproductive health. In a state where 32 out of 33 counties lack adequate primary care, further restricting health care would be detrimental to the welfare of the community. Abortion is health care. Access to abortion means access to health care. People who must travel from out of state to have access to reproductive care continue to be under attack by Ordinance 2023-01. This is a blatant attack on freedom and on democracy. People who need access to reproductive health should be able to access it. Women and people who need access to abortion are not alone. Your fight is our fight. The freedom to choose and have access to abortion and reproductive health care should be a guaranteed right. Abortion is health care. Abortion is reproductive health. Please vote no on Ordinance 2023-01. Thank you.
Good evening. Sorry about the voice. My name is Quaylene Parkey, and I have listened to a lot of conversation this evening with statistics and legal opinions going both directions. And I understand I'm a woman. I believe in reproductive freedom, but I don't believe that includes killing the unborn. There's so many ways to prevent pregnancy. I mean, more than there has ever been. It can be done, and it can be done before you have to get to that decision. I too was a result of an unwanted pregnancy, but I was adopted, not aborted. Thank you, Jesus. And you know, everything that we've talked about this evening on both sides, the legal issues, the statistics, all of that aside, I don't know how that will turn out in the long run, and that's what lawyers will fight about for a long time to come. But what I do know is that this council has an opportunity tonight to make a very clear statement of faith and a clear statement to abortion clinics that we don't really want you here. And what I do know is that when we make statements of faith as a community, that makes God happy. And I would hope that we would do that this evening. I'm in favor. Thank you for your time.
Next will be Ramona M. And maybe Dallas Dulles Danforth.
Hi, my name is Ramona Malchinsky, and I'm here to speak against Ordinance 2023-01. I'm a lifelong resident of New Mexico. All people have the fundamental right to decide what medical procedures they undergo and what happens to their bodies. All people have the fundamental right to access healthcare as they choose. Abortion is a medical procedure that has been performed for centuries and is actually safer than giving birth. There's a lower likelihood of complications and health risks if you receive an abortion rather than going through childbirth. Medical freedom is a democratic right. If you support democracy, please vote no on this ordinance. The vast majority of counties in New Mexico do not have enough healthcare providers to meet the people's needs, including this county, Roosevelt County. We should be talking about how to work together to expand healthcare services in this state rather than how to restrict healthcare services and divide our communities. Further, this ordinance threatens all people in New Mexico and those who support women's rights and the freedom to make medical decisions are standing together against this ordinance. This ordinance does not just affect Roosevelt County, but could threaten the rights of people all across our state. Finally, passing this ordinance will not prevent people from getting abortions. It will only make these medical procedures dangerous and make women live in fear about making medical decisions. It will worsen the stigma against women who have to make these critical decisions when their lives are in danger, when they have a pregnancy that maybe they wanted, but they have a critical health issue that means that they have to choose to have an abortion. I also wanted to say that I grew up Catholic, went to Catholic school all my life, and even as someone who grew up with those beliefs, I think if you care about people's lives, if you care about democracy, if you care about healthcare, you vote no on this ordinance. Thank you very much.
I want to thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm grateful we live in a country where that we can say what we really believe. I speak tonight for the innocent and the unborn. There's a lot said about freedom of the woman, but what about the innocent baby, the unborn baby that will never get to speak, that will never get to say what is important to that child? And I think that's where what we have to look at. And I want to pray for you commissioners that you will have the strength and the courage to take a stand in this issue, because it is important not only to everyone here, but to those that are not here, that for the unborn. And we have lost many, many, many of the unborn that will never get to be and live out the life that they had intended. And I thank you, and I pray strength and courage. God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And you have all three of those working for you. So thank you very much.
Next will be Bliss Gonzalez, followed by Kenneth Walker.
I am speaking up about women's health care because no matter how much you try to ban abortions, women are going to find other unsafe ways to get them. It's so important to think critically about taking away abortion, what taking away abortions will do, and the danger that will put women in. Childbirth is more of a risk than receiving an abortion. The foster care system does not solve anything. New Mexico's poverty rate is 18.2%, and banning abortions will only raise it. An abortion is an effective and safe procedure. Abortion is health care.
Good evening. I read the Constitution. I didn't read anywhere, any article, any section that said you have the right to tear the innocent, the most innocent of our population from the sanctity of the uterus. Nowhere. I did see life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And as far as the souls of the babies that are aborted, we're not worried about them.
We're worried about the souls of the mothers who have been sold a bit of goods, that this is moral and ethical, and the soul of a nation that turned its back on a God that gave us the greatest nation that has ever existed. Roe v. Wade was pitched for abortion, on rape, incest, and the health of the mother. Apathetic America slept. We fast forward since Roe v. Wade, 63 million American citizens are dead because rape, incest, health threats to the mother? No. Because as the sign said, now it's we want abortion anytime, any reason, no questions. Reproductive health care for all, except for the approximately 33 million women who would have lived had they not been aborted. They don't have any reproductive rights. They don't have any rights at all. I looked. I was kind of curious, and I looked. In the world, there's over 90 nations that have fewer living residents than the number of people we have killed, including Canada, Australia, Argentina, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, and I could go on. A nation that murders its most innocent has lost its moral compass. And yet, we sit, we bow our head, and we pray for God to bless the USA. Thank you.
Next will be Margot Lopez, followed by Scotty Savage.
Good evening. I'm here to speak out against Ordinance 2023-1. It's a piece of anti-abortion legislation, most certainly. We know that. However, that's not all that it is. So it flies in the face of the rights of women in Roosevelt County and denies them access to healthcare that's life-saving. And when I say life-saving, I'm not just talking about healthcare that protects people from dying, which abortions do, but access to abortion means access to choice with what you do with your life. A choice to work, a choice to go to school, the choice to decide when you're ready and have the financial means to properly raise a child, and a right for children to have the life of a child without being forced to give birth, because we know that's happening right now. 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, etc. I'm not afraid to say that I myself have had an abortion because it's a normal healthcare procedure that literally takes 15 minutes. And I want every person who is afraid to speak because of the fear around this issue to know that I see you and I stand with you, and obviously you have support. Denying people this crucial right by passing an ordinance that attacks their right to access their healthcare, as well as criminalizing people and putting them in prison just for accessing abortion pills, is a part of a larger attack on democratic rights that's been unraveling in this country for a number of years, decades. We have to stop this here in its tracks, because this type of local legislation is what paves the way for the destruction of other democratic rights, including voting rights. Poll after poll, as we heard from someone earlier, suggests that even the majority of Republicans support abortion access in some form. All you'll do by passing this ordinance is drive people deeper into poverty, drive people out of this town and county, and incarcerate your citizens for accessing their health care, and prove that you stand with the extreme unelected Supreme Court justices and against the majority of Americans, which do support abortion rights in some form. I strongly urge you to vote against this ordinance. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Scotty Savage again. I know that you guys have said that you're pro-life. And a month ago, I stood before you and I put in front of you a scenario. The scenario was that you're walking down the street and you hear this little tiny baby screaming in terror as its legs and arms were being pulled off of it. And it's bleeding and crying and in pain. And you see these people doing this. I believed at the time that each and every one of you guys would rush to its aid, knowing that by doing so, your own life was in peril. And I asked you at the time that in 1 month, on January 10, that same scenario would be before you, because that, people, is what an abortion is. Pulling a baby apart. Just because you can't hear its screams doesn't mean it's not crying, and it doesn't mean that you're not torturing it. So I ask you today, what is that decision? Yeah, you guys are going to catch a storm. How courageous are you to stand up against that storm? Only you can answer that. But I'm pretty sure you guys all will have the courage, and that storm is going to come. But you've got a lot of citizens here that are right behind you, and they put you where you are because they believe like you believe. I beg of you to have courage. Thanks.
Next is Bex Hampton, followed by Cheyenne Sanson. Sanson.
Good evening. My name is Bex. I just wanted to bring to you that this is about abortion. This is about an attack on women's rights, but it's also about something much, much bigger. The Roe v. Wade was eviscerated by the Supreme Court on the basis that abortion is not in the Constitution. And there's a lot of things that weren't in the original Constitution that I think we should all be very worried about bringing up. The Supreme Court has recently taken a case called Moore v. Harper. This case will determine, it's a gerrymandering case from North Carolina. It will determine whether or not the independent state legislature theory is constitutional or not. If deemed so, the independent state legislature theory could be invoked, meaning that the state legislatures would determine who the electors are, effectively doing away with the one person, one vote democracy that we currently have. If we continue to allow the Supreme Court to attack our basic rights on the basis that they aren't in the Constitution, we will be living in a very fascistic society. And, we need to join together to stop these attacks on our basic rights. And, caring about life means fully funding and making healthcare accessible, making sure that guaranteeing that every child has food and an adequate education and a safe, clean, affordable place to live, which many children are lacking across New Mexico and here in Roosevelt County. It means paving roads, making sure that families have updated plumbing and infrastructure. And, we need all those things, and they're consistent also with guaranteeing and defending the right to an abortion, the right to choose. And if more women had better wages and more stable lives and, better economic conditions because the minimum wage was raised and whatnot, then we would be able to have children and take care of them and have families. And, many of us are just put in situations where we're too poor and we have no other choice. So caring for life, it really means, making sure that women and families here and today have everything that they need to bring life into this world.
We'll have Wayne Kinman, followed by Cheyenne Sanson. We'll have you after that.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Wayne Kinman. lived in New Mexico all of my life. I live in Elida right now. And I tell everybody if I didn't live here, I'd move here because I like this place that much. But I would really, really ask you guys to vote against this or vote for this 2023-01 because we don't need that in our county. I've heard time and time again about women's rights, about health care, about abortion. Abortion is murder, straight up murder. And that life begins. We just got through celebrating the birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And right before he was born, when he was conceived, Mary walked into the presence of Elizabeth, and Elizabeth was 6 months pregnant with John the Baptist. And that baby, it says right there in the book, that baby leapt in her womb. And Mary had just conceived. So life begins at conception. And John the Baptist recognized his Savior when Mary walked into the room. And we can't allow that. We can't allow murder. And all these women's rights that they're talking about, those rights end when they affect somebody else's rights. And I don't know about y'all, but Acts 5:29 says, we must obey God rather than men. And God said it very plainly, thou shalt not murder. That's all I've got to say.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Cheyenne Sansom, and I am a Roosevelt County resident. I am an instructor at Eastern New Mexico University. I'm a mother. I'm a woman of childbearing age, and I'm here today to urge you to vote no on this ordinance. Abortion is legal in New Mexico, and therefore it's legal in Roosevelt County. New Mexico has a proud history of protecting and expanding access to reproductive health care, including safe and legal abortion. We both know that decisions about reproductive health care, including abortion care, are personal and must remain between the person seeking care, their loved ones, and their medical provider. I'm here to represent all the women in Roosevelt County, including the thousands of young women who attend Eastern New Mexico University who aren't here to speak. And I just want you to stand in solidarity with your constituents, me, and all of the other people speaking, and those who aren't here, who stand firm in our values of respect and compassion, which means, again, I urge you to vote no on Ordinance 2023-01. Thank you.
Next, we'll have Wade Fraze, followed by Lorenzo Gonzalez, maybe? Lorenzo G.
Okay, is this on? Okay. Sorry about my voice. I just came from basketball practice, and I guess I yelled too much. Gosh, I've got some notes here. There's a lot of things that have been said about health care, the rights of women, and it's been said over and over, the rights of those 33 million women that have been murdered. Nobody's talking about that. Not very many, at least half of them here. There are lots of choices. They talk about women's choices, their health care. Men and women have choices for health care. I can go to Lubbock, I can go to Albuquerque, I can go to Santa Fe. My wife can too. My daughter can too, who is expecting our first grandchild. We've got lots of choices. If I'm sick, I can go get medicine from a doctor. That baby, whether it's being pulled, the limbs being pulled from it, being pulled apart, or whether it's a toxin being introduced into the mother's system that's poisoning it, where does that baby go? I can go a lot of places. My wife can go a lot of places. People in Roosevelt County can go to Albuquerque and Santa Fe and get all the abortions they want. Those people love it. We do not need to introduce more evil than what's already in our county here. Why? It was mentioned that abortions should be rare by some folks tonight. Why should it be rare if there's nothing wrong with it? Why would we be appalled if someone took the life of a 1-year-old, this 1-year-old child right here on this floor? We would be appalled if someone took that baby's life right here in front of us. What's the difference in a year earlier? What's the difference? Location, inside the womb or out? Is it okay to kill me inside this building but not outside of it? Level of development? 1-year-old, I'm taking care of my dad right now who has terminal cancer. He can't get out of bed. Is it okay to go kill him because he's of no use to society? Federal law, the way I understand it, federal law already exists. It's already on the books for this issue about paraphernalia to murder being transported across the county line. The question is whether we will allow our Roosevelt County citizens to pursue adherence to this law that's already there. What if the state of New Mexico, what if the federal law had in place that the elderly in nursing homes were to be protected? But you cannot abuse the elderly. You cannot take their life. New Mexico state law said we're removing those protections from the elderly. It's okay to beat those elderly in their nursing home. It's okay to take their life against federal law. Would the citizens of this county and this commission stand in defense of those defenseless people in that nursing home and stand on a law that's already there federally, or would we bow at the feet of the governor and allow that to go on? Okay, that you will know, Bible says you will know them by their fruit. Your fruit is going to be evident.
All right. Hello, my name is Lorenzo Gomez. I'm a college student who was born and raised in New Mexico, spent all my life here. I'm here today to speak out against and ask the county commissioners to vote no on Ordinance 2023-01. Here in rural New Mexico, healthcare options are already very scarce as is. Any movement or policy that further cracks down on healthcare availability and accessibility only hurts the working class Americans of rural New Mexico. Healthcare, especially for women and other at-risk people, should be widely available in a country that is founded on the ideals of freedom and liberty. The people in this community should have the essential freedom of complete access to healthcare. It's the most American thing you can do. This particular ordinance is dangerous as it limits opportunity for essential healthcare procedures like abortions for people in New Mexico and those coming from out of state who really need help. You should vote no on Ordinance 2023-01 and ensure that this county can continue to provide for and offer healthcare for those who most need it. Thank you.
Next will be Eric Welsh, followed by Randall. Yes. Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. Eric Welsh. I live in Clovis, but my whole entire family is from Portales and lived here all their lives. So we heard it said here just a little while ago that this is an issue that needs to be handled by the state. Well, my grandparents, God rest their soul, waited for 50 years on this state to do something about this issue, and they would still be waiting if they were alive. The biggest misnomer is that this thing was given back to the state to be dealt with. You realize we heard the opinion of one lawyer or attorney that sent his letter, but that this exact same ordinance or one that's very similar to it has been heard by another set of county commissioners and 2 different sets of commissioners in 2 different cities that I've been at. So, and they passed it. They passed it. And it was greenlit by their attorneys as well. So what I'm here to do today is I'm here to encourage you. I'm here to encourage you. We've heard the statistics about how many people, how many conservatives there are that are pro-abortion. I can throw out just the same numbers about liberals that are against abortion, right? But the point is what is the percentage of your constituents that are pro abortion or anti abortion. And I bet if we had everybody stand up in here, you would see a pretty drastic difference between the people you represent, or the opinions of most of the people you represent, versus most of the people that you don't represent. But the major question here tonight is, what is your authority? What is your authority? I don't have time to sit here and ask everybody what they believe, but if you are a Bible-believing Christian, Leviticus chapter 20 says anyone who closes their eyes to anyone going and sacrificing their child to Molech is to be cut off from his people. We are held responsible for what we do, and we're held responsible for how we stand. So if children, notice the presuppositions that come in, man is just a slightly formed or a slightly evolved beast on one side, as opposed to one is made in the image of God. One has been crafted in the mother's womb and has value and dignity as a human being. If it's that, and you close your eyes to it, you will be held accountable. You will be held accountable not only by your constituents, but more importantly by God. So I want you all to take that with you. God bless you guys, and I guarantee you the vast majority of your constituents stand with you. Thank you.
Imagine that tomorrow morning you awake to find your body attached to that of someone asleep beside you. Frightened, confused, and in search of an answer, a doctor enters the room. He sits down beside you and explains to you that this comatose patient is dying and will rely on your heartbeat, your blood for 9 months in order to recover. This treatment has a good chance of physical and personal consequences for you. You can choose to terminate this treatment at any time. If you do this, you will kill the patient. This is the situation that many women of all walks of life find themselves in every single day. And this thought experiment does not even cover the economic, social, physical, and emotional commitment that comes with responsibly raising and caring for a child many years after the pregnancy. It does not account for the lack of existing hopes and dreams, joys and fears, memories and determinations of the unborn child, as opposed to the pregnant individual. This is a choice between a living person with their own existing hopes, desires, property, and pastimes that may be jeopardized or obliterated should the pregnancy be unwanted, and another yet unrealized person without any of the above to speak of. Who will you choose? Tonight here are well-funded conservative groups from out of state trying to convince the county commission to pass this ordinance banning and criminalizing abortion here in Roosevelt County. This county borders Texas, and this is a coordinated effort to discourage travel from Texas to New Mexico for abortion access. We need to prioritize providing legal, dignified abortion care to women and others entering New Mexico for abortions, and those living here in Roosevelt County today. The alternative is greater suffering, greater death, and more grief and trauma for communities within and without this county and our state, as alternatives are desperately looked for. Thank you.
Warren, yes. And you will be followed by Thay Woods. Thay Woods? Thea, yes, Thea.
My name is Warren Golick. I'm a resident of Curry County, but I'm an uncle of a gentleman that just made the dean's list here at Eastern. I want you guys to look at the ripple effect of this thing. If I kill a lady that's pregnant, I get double homicide. If a woman kills a baby, it's okay. Do you know the ripple effect this is going to have on somebody if they kill a baby? You know the laws that they're going to pull out of their back pocket and say, hey, I should get scot-free. Hey, it don't matter. I should only be charged for one body and not two. I mean, I'm right down the middle on this thing. You guys are going to vote however you want to vote, but look at the consequences. This side and this side both need to look at it because they would think totally different. If I killed one of them while they were pregnant, they would throw me in jail for double murder. I'd get 60 years instead of 30. But if they kill it, they get to go home and sleep better at night. That don't make a lick of sense in nobody's head. I don't care who you are. So check this out. You're going to vote how you want, but I'm glad this thing is being televised on the internet. And I hope Lujan Grisham watches this section of this piece, because how is somebody going to be able to sleep at night knowing that I killed 2 babies, but a woman can do it and get off scot-free? Think about that, you guys, both sides. Y'all have a good evening.
Hello, my name is Thea, and I'm here tonight to ask you to vote no on Ordinance 2023-01. A woman's right to an abortion is a healthcare issue. Medical care should not be revoked from individuals based on their gender. Women and people with uteruses should have full control over what happens to their bodies. Women's healthcare should be treated as a serious issue because it is a serious issue. Abandoning women's healthcare is so harmful and dehumanizing. We need to be actively working to expand healthcare and not taking it away. Taking away a woman's right to an abortion could potentially take her life. People will and can die or be left with lifelong mental and physical damages if they are refused access to medical care. Everyone's medical needs are different. Some people's bodies cannot handle a pregnancy, and a forced pregnancy could end their lives. When everyone's needs are so different and have such different and unique bodies, decisions should not be made for everyone. Decisions should not be made for everyone altogether, but keep individuals' persons in mind. It's dangerous.
Next will be Mark Dixon, followed by Thomas Harris.
Good evening. My name is Mark Lee Dixon. I'm a director with Right to Life of East Texas, founder of what's called the Sanctuary Cities for the Unborn Initiative, the co-author of all 64 ordinances that have been passed in cities and counties in the United States, like the one before you today, and also the only private citizen who was sued in the lawsuit regarding the Texas Heartbeat Act, which went before the Supreme Court of the United States, in which all 9 justices agreed, even the liberal ones, that the case against me should be dismissed. This ordinance, which is before you, is an ordinance that has survived many tests. And although it is different, like the other ordinances passed in New Mexico, and in many ways different from the ordinances passed in Texas, there are a lot of similarities that it shares, both with the New Mexico ordinances and the Texas ordinances. This ordinance in particular has the private enforcement mechanism, which has survived before the Supreme Court of the United States. It has been well tested. And we are confident that if this ordinance is passed tonight, that it would protect the unincorporated parts of this county, just like it has protected Lubbock, Texas, and just like it has protected Hobbs, New Mexico. We know that the Texas Heartbeat Act, which had the private enforcement mechanism, kicked out Whole Women's Health to southeastern New Mexico. That's where they were coming to set up shop. And we know that the Hobbs Ordinance, when it was passed, ended up causing Whole Women's Health to relocate to Albuquerque, New Mexico, 5 hours away. This is not an explicit abortion ban, but it is what I call a de facto abortion ban. It has the same effect. And if this is passed here tonight, it would not just prevent an abortion industry like Planned Parenthood from setting up shop, but it will also prevent CVS, Walgreens, and any other pharmacy from distributing the abortion pill, because they will not be able to receive in the mails the abortion pill. This ordinance is one that you guys do have the ability to pass. And Jonathan F. Mitchell has given you guys a letter, former Solicitor General for the state of Texas, that says that if you pass this and there is any litigation, that he's willing to represent at no cost to the county and taxpayers. You know, there's a quote from Batman Begins.
Sir, your time's up.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for letting me be here. I do not have the straight presentation of my former the person who was here before here, but I will sure try to go ahead and speak my full 2 cents here. I asked the city in this county not to pass the ordinance out here 23/001. Other people otherwise can provide a defense out here for abortion, but I am here because all the women here of New Mexico and those of neighboring Texas should have access to health care. I believe that restricting abortion supplies will endanger women, and the criminalization of those who receive these supplies or pills can escalate further, often to the point that of previous judgments and ideals could leave a person being jailed just for the idea of having a miscarriage. Instead of restricting abortion, what is really needed is a real expansion of it, of all New Mexico, and particularly of that of rural New Mexico, of those times. I heard other people saying out here that, I don't believe that people should have to drive 4 or 5 miles just to go ahead and get a simple healthcare procedure. This ordinance here is an injury to all New Mexicans and people coming here from another neighboring states. And we should not allow this attack on our freedom to provide and access healthcare, freedom to provide and to access this healthcare. And this should actually be expanded to the point of to more cities and towns of not just New Mexico, but all of the United States. Thank you and have a nice, good evening.
Okay, and Angie Smith, you'll be next, and Joel Gallegos, you're on deck.
Amen. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Angie Smith. There's one thing I would really like to address right away, and that is the misconception between a spontaneous abortion and an elective abortion. This is something that the abortion industry has driven home and has used to scare and frighten people into protecting abortion, and that is a spontaneous abortion, otherwise what we know as a miscarriage or an ectopic pregnancy. That is something that, for whatever reason, a medicine doesn't really understand. The woman's body begins to reject the pregnancy, and a D&C or a D&E is needed to clean that out and protect her from infection. Same thing with ectopic pregnancies. This will not prevent that from happening. That is not something she chose. The medical field will be there to help her. Now let's talk about elective abortions. When the mother chooses to have the abortion, and let's focus particularly on the abortion pill, which is accounting for 50% of abortions and growing. An ectopic pregnancy won't be looked for. She'll be given a couple of pills, never looked at, no ultrasound, no nothing, probably from somebody on a television screen. If she's having an ectopic pregnancy, she won't know she could die. If she's experiencing extreme pain and suffering and she doesn't know what to do, the abortion industry tells her, don't go to the ER, call us. That's what happened with Miss Atkins. Bloodborne pathogens will get into sewer systems, get into water systems, get into hotels. When she expels her baby and the blood that's there, that's now going to have to be dealt with hotel staff if she chooses to have her abortion there. And the abortion itself causes so much physical, psychological, emotional damage. Can you imagine when she's just looking for help and she's given 2 little pills and said everything's going to be fine, and she goes home or to a hotel room, and now she's in incredible pain. There's blood everywhere. There's a dead baby there, and now she's got to be the abortionist, the abortion clinic, and the cleanup crew. Can you imagine the psychological trauma, the emotional trauma that is going to happen to her? That is not health care. You know, 160 years ago this year, the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, and it made sure that no human being was ever considered somebody's property, a thing the owner could do with as he or she pleases. So please pass this ordinance. So no unborn child can ever be considered someone's property to do with as they please. And for the mamas and daddies, please pass this ordinance. And this is to the church, my brothers and sisters in Christ in this room. We have got to step up. We have got to do better. We have got to stop letting the pregnancy resource centers carry all of the weight and the burden. We have got to rise to the occasion and help these women because there's going to be even more who need it. Roosevelt can be a place of destination for life and joy and hope. That's what we should be a destination for, not of darkness and despair. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joel Gallegos, and I'm a New Mexico resident all my life, 37 years, and you know, I don't have any financial incentives to be up here. I don't have a congregation that pays me to preach to them. I don't have a law, you know, a law degree or a law practice that pays me a lot of money to come up here and make some statements. But what I do have is real life experience. My wife, if she were to have another child, we already have a child, she would die. If our birth control failed for whatever reason, and birth control does fail, she would die. And what use is a dead mother to her child or to her husband? Is that what you want? You want them to die? Because that's what happens. That's the real thing that happens. People don't go and get abortions because it's, you know, they're willy-nilly and they just want to have fun and have sex. That is not what the majority of women go to get abortions for. They get it for health care. I have a cousin of mine. She had an ectopic pregnancy. This ban would prevent her from getting that taken care of, regardless of what that woman just said. She would die. She would have died. And all three of her children would have been orphaned. Is that what you want? Because that's what happens. And that's all I have to say about that, because it's really upsetting me thinking about what would happen to my wife if for some reason that birth control did not work. What would happen to my wife? My number one person that I love besides my daughter. What would happen? How would my daughter live with that? With her dead mother, because she didn't have access to health care. And they say, oh, well, you could go to Albuquerque, you could go to Santa Fe. Some people don't even have enough money to go to their job. They don't have enough money for gas to go to work. And you're going to say, oh, just go to Albuquerque. Yeah, well, some people don't have that luxury. Some people don't have that kind of money. Some people have to work for a living. Some people don't have money from congregations that keep them well fed and well clothed with a big giant roof over their house. And I'm tired of all these people coming up here and they're using all of these sort of made up scenarios when our side is using facts and reason and statistics. We're not saying, oh, imagine if a kid was just murdered right here in front of us. That's not what happens. This is not the reality of the situation. And I think it's apparent. It's apparent for people to be using the image of dead and murdered children as an excuse to take away health care from women. You know, that is just apparent. We don't come up here and talk about murdered children as some sort of tool in order to pull at your heartstrings to make you feel a certain way. We don't do that. You don't see us doing that. That's all I got to say.
Next will be Adam. Is it Adam Smith? Aslan. Sorry. And Ansley de Saul. Yes, you're on deck.
Hi, my name is Aslan Smith, and I'm 14. I am here for women because abortion pushes the we can't agenda, when pro-life pushes the we can. Abortion pushes the we can't because every time you hear them talk, it's always, you can't go to college and get a good degree because you have an abortion, if you have a kid. You can't get a good job if you have a kid by your side, if you're a single mother. I mean, that is just false. There's so many celebrities and inspirational women like Marie Curie, who is the radiation scientist who discovered it. She had a 7-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old daughter when her husband passed away. Her daughter, not only did she continue her research and became with her mother, with her children. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah. Her eldest daughter became a scientist and won a Nobel Prize, and her youngest became a journalist and author and won a National Book Award. Jamie Lynn Spears. She was 16 when she announced her pregnancy and engaged to the father, but only after 3 years she called it quits with him. She continued to raise her daughter and in 2011 started her country music album. Then abortion says you can't be a teen mom or a single mother and be successful, but they're wrong. And if you don't want to be a mother, there's adoption. If you want help, there's countless organizations. So I push the I Can agenda. I am pro-women and pro-life.
Hello, my name is Annalie Dessonnier, and I'm here to ask you to vote no to this ordinance. I find it truly disturbing that I'm not only here to demand the expansion of women's health care access for my sisters here in Roosevelt County, but I'm here additionally to oppose the criminalization of all women in this county for trying to access basic health care. Because if you pass this ordinance, any woman, any of them can be accused. It's extremely dangerous for the safety and the health of women in New Mexico. Many women across New Mexico are barely scraping by. They're living paycheck to paycheck. I personally would love to start a family, but I can't afford it. I spend half of my income on housing. Groceries for just me and my fiance were almost $200 this week. We can't afford a child. And honestly, it's ridiculous that we even have to get up here and give you examples because it's none of your business what a woman does with her body. No one has the right to tell another person what to do with their body. It should be between them and their medical professional. I guarantee every person in this room, knows a woman that does not trust you because you feel entitled to tell them what to do with their body. You all say, oh, it's not just about religion. Okay, so take religion out of it. All I see left is the desire for you to control women. I urge you to vote no. Any attempt to suppress anyone's human right to an abortion is a gross misuse of power. Hands off our health care.
Okay, next up will be Ruth McLean and followed by Omar Munoz. You're on deck, and there are 30 still remaining on the list. Ruth McLean. Okay, we will move on. Victoria Dare. Victoria, are you still okay? Victoria, you will be followed by Omar.
Commissioners, thank you very much for giving us an opportunity to exercise our rights. First off, I am for this ordinance. I am morally compelled regarding the ordinance, but what I'm going to present to you is something that I think is a crisis in this nation that is not being addressed. The opponents of the ordinance are continually stressing me, my life, more services, more whatever you want to fill in the blank with. That government, such as yourselves and larger out of this community, they're looking to you to provide it. But I would contend that if we do not address the crisis that I'm going to present to you, that you may not have even actually looked at or heard about or contemplated before tonight, it's something that if we don't address as a nation, there will be no nation. There will be no opportunity to stand up and demand our rights to be fulfilled because we won't exist. The US birth rate has fallen 4% to its lowest point ever. This is a BBC article written in May of 21. The American birth rate fell for the 6th consecutive year in 2020, with the lowest numbers of babies born since 1979, according to a new report. In 2020, the general fertility rate in the US was about 56 births per 1,000 women, the lowest rate on record and about half of what it was in the 1960s. The report also analyzed the total US fertility rate, which estimates how many babies a hypothetical group of 1,000 women would have over their lifetime based on the actual birth rates. This is key. Please hear this and remember it. For a generation to exactly replace itself, this number must be at 2.1 births, and I would define those as being children born and reared to become contributing members of society. It must be at or above 2.1 births per woman in their lifetime. According to the CDC, this rate has generally been below replacement since 1971. That's a date we should all remember. That's a time frame in this nation when this issue came forward and abortion became legal. It wasn't rare. It hasn't been, not 63 million times. I'm sorry, that's a fallacy. Today, the US fertility rate, this is the second point I want you to keep and think about as leaders in this nation, 1.6. Thank you.
Time is up.
1.6. Don't forget that.
Good evening. I'm here today to encourage you guys to vote no on Ordinance 2023-01. All people are entitled to safe and legal health care. Many people travel many miles and hours to have access to health care and save lives. And this saves lives. Limiting access to health care hurts lower income individuals from having safely performed procedures. If Ordinance 2023-01 is passed, lower income individuals will be forced to seek alternative methods, increasing self-induced abortions and abortions performed without medical supervision. This will only increase the mortality rate for women and cause unnecessary injuries. Healthcare is important for all people, especially for those of New Mexico, who often require more need. Not every pregnancy is safe to carry to term, and this needs to be recognized in order to keep the citizens of New Mexico and those who seek a safe place healthy.
Next is Leon Nall, followed by Lillian Wellman.
Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak before you tonight. I'm going to ask you to support the ordinance that's being discussed. I've marked out most of the points that I've had because they've already been mentioned several times, and I do agree with what the side for the ordinance has said so far. Since I've been sitting in the back row watching, I keep seeing a sign that comes up. The sign says, "Make abortion constitutional for New Mexico." My question is, who sitting before me took an oath to uphold the Constitution? If that sign says make abortion constitutional, it must not be constitutional if we should make it constitutional. I'm asking you not to accept their request to make abortion easy in Roosevelt County. According to the sign I read, it's not constitutional. Several times I've heard the word democracy said. I'm sorry. I do not live in a democracy. I live in a constitutional republic. Decisions are made based on our Constitution, not the majority. Thank you.
Hello, I thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak. If I were to become pregnant today, my life instantly becomes less valuable without adequate access to healthcare. Abortion is healthcare and should be treated as such. Restricting the access to safe abortion does not stop abortions from happening, it only stops the safe ones. Many people, not only in New Mexico, but also nearby states, rely on these healthcare services to live and continue living their lives as they choose. People drive 10, 12 hours to come to New Mexico to get an abortion, and removing that option forces people to go to further lengths to get the care they need. We need to set an example that New Mexico is a safe place, and we welcome those who need help, not turn them away. I recall a story of a woman from Texas who came to a clinic in New Mexico. Unable to afford childcare to leave her daughter at home, she came with her. When she received the medication, she broke down crying and explained that without that abortion, she would no longer be able to take care of her existing children. This is a clear example of why abortion is so critical. Please vote no on Ordinance 2023-01 to protect your and future generations' access to necessary health care. Thank you.
Next will be Logan Brown, followed by Anna. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Commissioners. Before I read and say my speech, I wanted to quote Mr. Markley Dixon. This was the rest of his speech tonight. So, what chance does Gotham have if the good people do nothing? Well, in Roosevelt County, what chance does Roosevelt County have if the good commissioners do nothing? This ordinance does not prevent women from this county going to Albuquerque to have an abortion. All this ordinance does is require compliance with federal law in an attempt to prevent abortions from happening here in your county. The ordinance does not criminalize women from having an abortion, throw them in jail, or allow them to be sued. That's a quote from Mark Dixon. Let the record reflect that. So I could spend a lot of time refuting a lot of the things said tonight. And a lot of them come from just not reading the ordinance. For example, on page 1 definitions, it states specifically this does not have anything to do with ectopic pregnancies, any rape, incest. It's very specific. And I believe you commissioners have been way more thorough than a lot of people in this audience and actually read the ordinance. Also, the lie that women are going to be sued, section 3, subsection I, number 1 specifically states that the woman is not sued. So once again, I'm not going to waste my time explaining those things or reading them. You guys have read those. The audience has not. A couple things. The gentleman earlier said that most abortions are for, legitimate reasons, right? I have been actively working in an abortion outreach ministry for 4 years. According to the Guttmacher Institute, which is a liberal research company, 91% of abortions are purely elective, which means they're not done for the health of the mother, the baby, rape, incest, coercion, any of the other things. 91%. Those are elective by choice abortions. Let's see. We keep hearing reproductive health care. We see it on signs. Reproductive health care. Well, the quote goes, if you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes accepted as truth. Well, we in Roosevelt County do not accept that lie as truth. Healthcare, according to the Hippocratic Oath, states do no harm. According to what I've seen in my outreach to these women seeking abortions, abortion does harm to the woman, the baby, and all of society. It devalues human life. So it is not healthcare. And finally, abortion is legal. We've heard this over and over again in the state. It's legal in the state. You know what? At the time, so was slavery. So was the Holocaust in Germany. Legal does not mean moral, and we all know that. And last but not least, Okay, so when you look around the room tonight, commissioners, you hear all the different speakers. It's not the religious side.
Thank you.
Ah, okay.
I am here in front of you today as a New Mexican, a woman, and a person who lives in a free nation. I ventured from the city of Las Cruces to ask you to vote no on Ordinance 2023-01. Nobody should have action taken against them for making a personal health decision in a free nation. New Mexico government documents are printed in Spanish and English for equal access in this beautiful land. So why then must we restrict equal health care access? The estimated total for abortions performed in New Mexico for the year 2020 is 5,880. So clearly people have use and a need for this access to basic health care. In the US, 1 in 4 women will have an abortion before the age of 45. Especially with the frightening legislations taking place in other states, New Mexico is a safe haven for those seeking other possibilities in life that are not being forced to carry a child for 9 months and consequently taking care of it for at least 18 years. Abortion is a safe and normal practice. We must no longer chain down and demonize it. New Mexicans deserve access to all facets of health care, and reproductive care and comprehensive sexual education is not excluded from that. New Mexico is already ranked 38 out of 50 for healthcare access and 36 of 50 for public health, which means that most of the nation is miles ahead. Out of the 33 counties in this state, 32 of those lack adequate primary care as it is. Personally, if I were to be targeted or criminalized for accessing abortion, I would be further set back in my life than I already am. I was lucky enough to go to NMSU as a New Mexico resident, but through my own life troubles that happened through no fault of my own, I was set back in school farther than I should be, and therefore the timeline of my young adult life. If I were to be penalized or chased down for choosing not to have a baby that would objectively set me back further at this point in my life, I would be extremely worse off. To be actively dragged down for something I choose for my own body by a government that was built on free principles would be an absolute travesty. I also know that if my mother were to get pregnant again, that my parents could not afford to raise another child, as they struggle now and will barely be able to sustain themselves in retirement. In fact, they will both have to work past the age they should be retiring in the first place, an all too common issue in this nation as it is, and not what New Mexico, a state notorious for high suicide and child poverty rates, needs. The poverty rate in New Mexico is 43.75% higher than the US average, and 30% of children in New Mexico live in poverty as of 2017, making it the worst in the entire nation of 50 states. In the case of children under 5, it's worse, if you can imagine, at 36%. We are all aware that a global pandemic and the after effects of that have no doubt increased those truly terrifying numbers. Clearly, not everyone is able to reasonably bring a child into this world. Ask yourself this question: do more children deserve to be put into poverty if their parents are unable to take care of them and want to terminate their pregnancy but are unable due to potential repercussions or lack of access? And according to statistics from the New Mexico Department of Health website, New Mexico has the second highest rate of suicide in the nation, with a rate that is consistently 50% higher than the national average. Why should anyone make the situation worse by restricting and criminalizing the right to choose how to build a family in a place where citizens are already set back by the infrastructure and lack thereof? Thank you, I will. Vote no.
Next will be Yetta Massey, followed by Celeste Romero.
Good evening. I'll keep this short. I also have heard many statements, as you have all night long. I'm here to ask you to vote yes on this bill. Some questions I have for you is, what is true, that you can ask yourself later on as you're deliberating. What is true reproductive choice? Reproductive choice begins at the choice to have intercourse, I believe. What is health care? Keeping people alive, I believe. What is free will? Forcing a community to establish a system to eliminate fetuses because an individual made a free will choice to have intercourse, yes or no? And I believe free will is also choosing to be transported to another setting where abortions can be performed similarly to the free will of those who chose to drive here and speak about this issue tonight. When Ms. Smith mentioned the mess to clean up regarding sending young women to hotels to take the abortion pill and then have hotel staff have to clean those things up. I believe we would be facing those types of things here in Portales. While I do respect the choice of young women, I also work on the campus of Eastern New Mexico University. I have had individual conferences with those who have chosen to get pregnant, or maybe not, maybe they were raped, but they have not taken into consideration that they had another person living inside of them. So a lot of them are confused when I conference with them. And lastly, if abortion is healthier than giving birth, then humanity should have already been eliminated.
Hello, my name is Celeste Romero. I'm a woman and a resident of New Mexico. For me, safe and legal abortion is a vital form of healthcare. Knowing that I can access abortion gives me security because I know that I will have the ability to make a decision about my body, health, and future. According to Pew Research, 1 in 4 American women will make the choice to access this healthcare option before the age of 45. Abortion is one of the safest medical procedures. It is less likely to have complications than a wisdom tooth removal and is 14 times safer than childbirth. The number of women who choose abortion includes many women we all know of all political orientations and women who are already mothers. However, our freedom to access this healthcare is constantly in danger. We face legal, travel, and cost barriers to accessing abortion. This problem is worse for women who can't afford to travel for abortions or to pay for one, and can be worse for people in rural areas with the lack of healthcare resources. 32 out of 33 counties in New Mexico lack adequate primary care. This ordinance will worsen this problem. We should be fighting to expand healthcare and childcare for women instead of restricting the freedom of residents to access healthcare options like abortion. Fighting for healthcare is how we will prove how much we value human life. Because of attacks and restrictions on the freedom to access healthcare in nearby states, New Mexico has become a safe haven for people to travel from Texas or Arizona in order to access abortion. This ordinance endangers them and their freedom, as well as the freedom of New Mexicans. I urge you to vote no on this ordinance. Thank you.
Kelly Fulfer, followed by Zachary Booth.
Good evening, commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here with you and appreciate the time. And my name is Kelly Fulfer. I pastor a church, and the Bible is my life. I do my best to let that dictate my worldview. And I love studying history, studying Israel's history as a nation. They had their ups and downs, times whenever they would become very immoral and ungodly, and they would suffer everything that a nation needs to fail. And then there are times of great revival in which they would come back to God in fear and respect. But I want to capitalize on one of the common practices that they employed during their times of failure as a nation, and that was the murdering of their children, sacrificing their children. It was always a part of the practice, and God's wrath was directed against them. During revivals, when they would come back to God, one of those things that was stopped as a practice was murdering their children. If you go to the New Testament in Romans chapter 1, verse 18 gives us a clear picture of what it looks like for God's wrath to be directed toward a nation. You see the corruption and the immoral behavior that is going to cause not God's blessing, but the exact opposite to fall in a nation. I just read 2 days ago that we crossed over 64 million babies killed by abortion in this country. We see this nation coming apart in so many ways. We see God's wrath being poured out. And you guys, you have to stand in the middle of this. John the Baptist took a stand for what was right, even though it wasn't popular, and even though it cost him. He went to prison, and eventually he was murdered. But he took a stand. And Jesus said of that man that he was the greatest prophet ever. For you guys, as leaders in your community who claim Christianity, every person here will stand before God one day and answer for what they've done. We will be judged. I hope that you choose to stand in the company of the likes of John the Baptist. You take a stand no matter what the stats may say. God sees, knows, and I just ask that you make your decision based on that. These signs and standing, it's all to show size, big, here we are. Well, nothing compares to what it's going to be like to stand before God on that day. Thank you.
Hello, I am here today to ask you to vote against this ordinance. My name is Zachary Booth, and I am an NMSU student of ethics and morality. What I do every single day is study how to live the good, valuable, and moral life. Now, I ask you, I know the intentions behind the ordinance comes from a place of love, but ask yourself the actual realistic consequences of this ordinance. Will it reduce the amount of abortions? No. What it will do is it'll drive people away from your county. It'll drive people who love New Mexico, who love this county, away from you. That's what it will do. Know what it won't do? It will not protect innocent children's lives. All right, those children, the people that you guys demonize and villainize as people who constantly have abortions, they will have abortions regardless of this ordinance. What it will do is it'll harm the women who are too scared to move and leave and get proper health care. It'll harm the people in your county. If you actually want to believe in democracy, even though some here do not, then you ought to think about the people in your county and how this will affect them personally. This will not create well-being for your society. This will not make people happier. This will not make people stronger. What it will do is it'll hurt your county. It'll put all the religious people at the top and allow them to oppress, push down, and use the law to hurt women who legitimately need health care. So I'm urging you to say no, not because I think that your intentions are wrong, but I'm urging you no because the consequences will only hurt the people you care about. Thank you.
Next will be Tracy De La Rosa, followed by Kevin Branham. Tracy. They both are out. So Zarita Bradfuge, followed by Kevin.
Thank you to my commissioners. I love you. I appreciate you. I know what hard work you do. I know that you struggle at night as you sleep, deciding what's the righteous choices to make. And I'm proud of you, and I do love you. And I want to just share a few things from my heart. I love this area. I love Portales and the entire area. And when I walk outside, there's a good feeling here. If we allow abortion industries to come in here, that will leave. It will leave because evil comes in and drives out the good. And I want to keep Portales the way it is. The other thing I'm thinking about is I look at you, every one of you, and me too, everybody in this room is here because a woman somewhere said, you get to live. And not only you, but think of your children. Because you live, your mother allowed your children to live. Because she allowed you to live, she allowed your grandchildren to live. Because she allowed your grandchildren to live, she allowed your great-grandchildren to live. So by her making that one choice, she allowed an entire society to live. 64 million babies have been murdered. And we will give account for it. So but if I was thinking about how can we fight this, it's like I had this idea. It isn't the big things we do, it's the little things we do. In the coffee shop, when you have an opportunity to speak for the babies, don't be quiet. If you think you might offend somebody, don't hurt them because, I mean, you don't want to hurt anybody. And mothers that have had abortions are hurting worse than anybody. I have the greatest compassion for them. Don't hurt them, but speak with love for the babies because the babies have no voice. Their screams are silent as they're pulled apart. So when you have a minute and you happen to be with somebody and you can speak, speak for the babies. And I thank God for all of you.
Excuse me, Commissioner Mills, didn't you say that this was a 2-hour forum? We're past 2 hours.
They need to be even. This is the last one to be even.
One more. Each side. And that'll be over. Thank you.
Can you repeat the question?
Is it Kevin?
I'd like to yield my time to Krista Peach.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Krista Peach, and I'm a Roosevelt County resident, currently District 2, and have lived here since 2014. I'm speaking tonight in opposition to Ordinance 2023-01. In defining abortion, this ordinance contains some exceptions. An act performed with the purpose to remove a dead fetus caused by spontaneous abortion or removal of an ectopic pregnancy. This is particularly alarming as there are no exceptions for the many other medical emergencies that can occur, such as severe kidney disease or cancer, or for rape and incest. As of 2020, New Mexico was ranked 8th in the nation for rape incidents, reporting 60 cases for every 100,000 residents. Even more alarmingly, as of 2009, 31% of these victimizations occurred before age 12. I couldn't find childhood sexual abuse statistics for obvious reasons, but New Mexico was ranked number 1 for childhood maltreatment in 2019, with 14.9 cases for every 1,000 children. In regards to incest, I also could not find exact statistics, again, for self-explanatory reasons, but multiple sources have our state in their top 10 list for highest incidences in the nation. These statistics are frightening, and as citizens of New Mexico, we should be ashamed. We are not doing everything in our power to protect the most vulnerable. In fact, quite the opposite. SB 8, the Texas law this ordinance is based on, has already seen countless victims. 9, 10, 11, and 12-year-olds forced to carry the products of rape and incest, going to school like other kids their ages, but with neon signs of their abuse swelling in their bellies. Besides the mental toll, pregnancy puts their bodies in physical danger as well, including extremely high blood pressure leading to seizures and coma, increased risk of systemic and uterine lining infections, and anemia. Because of the narrowness of their pelvises at this age, vaginal birth is not recommended as it often leads to obstructed labor. This can cause pelvic inflammatory disease, infection of reproductive organs, and rupture of the birth canal, causing fistulas through which urine and/or feces leak into the vagina, requiring surgical repair. Instead, C-sections are performed, which can cause heavy bleeding, infection, and bladder and bowel injuries. Those that undergo C-sections are more likely to need them in the future, increasing the possibility of the life-threatening condition placenta accreta, where the placenta implants near the C-section scar. Ironically, this condition is also not an exception in the current language of Ordinance 2023-01. Passing Ordinance 2023 2022-01 is blanket permission for evil people to continue doing horrible things in our community, and I won't stand for it. You shouldn't either. When you cast your vote tonight, think of the children suffering in silence in our community right now. You have a chance to be their voice. Thank you.
I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight.
Some of us were here before 6:30 and signed up to speak. We've been waiting patiently. Where are you from?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm from Portales. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a homeowner. Got a daughter in the school district. I go to EMU. Please, I'm speaking.
Just a moment.
Point of
Just a-
order.
Listen, we allowed 2 hours, and we've gone over 2 hours for this debate. And I want to thank everybody for showing up, giving us your comments.
Can we schedule another one?
No, that's it. Thank you. Is that all of our comments? Is that it? Are y'all ready? We will now consider ordinance 2023-1. Do I yet have a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
I move for the adoption of item 16A, adoption of ordinance 2023-01, requiring abortion providers in Roosevelt County to comply with federal law.
Chair, I second that motion.
We have,
Chairman, for point of discussion, I would like to also make a request, if so be. I would like this, before we make a decision on this ordinance, and I meant to mention this even before discussion, that I would like the decision from the Board of Commission to respectfully table this to another date on the decision, because I truly feel that there's too many unanswered questions. There's got to be a lot of light shed. There's got to be more light shed on this topic. I personally don't think that in our lifetime or anybody else's lifetime, there's ever going to be an abortion clinic in Roosevelt County, although it's legal here. That's my personal opinion. But with that, I would like this to be tabled for a later date. There's going to be open dialogue. Oh, before I say any more, thank you guys. This is America. Thank you guys for being here. This is what it's all about. But there's going to be open dialogue in Santa Fe. Session starts next Tuesday, where both groups, all of us, I will join both groups with you guys to go to Santa Fe. This is going to be a huge topic of discussion up there with the upper ups, where we can discuss and give them our opinions, feedback, and tell them how we really feel in this part of the state. And then once, what was that, Mr. Carter? Did you say something?
I didn't, but I would like to.
No. So with that,
You called me out, why don't you let me come up and speak?
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Carter, just a minute.
Thank you. So with that, I would respectfully request for this to be tabled so that we can see the outcome from what's going to happen during legislation, and then we can proceed with this ordinance and see if we're willing to either pass it or not pass it after we see where we stand on the state level.
I thank you for your comments, Mr. Lopez, but we have a motion to approve and a second. And I feel at this point, we need to act on that.
Okay. Well, I would like the record to reflect that there's just way too many unknowns at this point. I think we're putting the cart before the horse, and a lot of things are going to come to light, and I just don't want the county to be liable in any which way. I'm just protecting our constituents and our residents, and I truly feel that I'm doing what's in the best interest of Roosevelt County. And I'm not comfortable I'm not knowledgeable enough to be able to comfortably say that I'm going to pass this ordinance when there's too many unknowns.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lopez. At this time, we'll have a roll call vote. Roy Lee Criswell, how do you vote?
Yes. Yes.
Tina Dixon?
Yes.
Paul Greider, yes. Rod Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
No.
This is a passage of the ordinance with a 4-1 vote. Thank you. Do we have any media? Is the media, do you have anything? No, not at this time. Okay, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Good night, drive safe.
You read the newspaper? Tate Turnbow, Democratic Party chair.
Yes,
I remember
Mr.
talking-
Reporter.
yeah, I was going to speak, but they took my time. Well, all I can tell you is the governor and the state legislature are going to be coming.
Wait for me. I'm gonna tell Dennis bye.
They're going to be coming.
It's going to be interesting. I'm not going to render opinions, but it's going to be interesting.
I'm on the record with that.
Yeah. The chances are about 99%. That's the reason why.
Yeah.
The soccer players over here, of course, really good.
Excuse me.